Welcome to Kim Talks Resilience, where we share stories of insight and inspiration in life, love, and business with resilient women from around the world. Speaking with authors, entrepreneurs, founders, and coaches to learn their strategies for a more resilient life so we can all build the life we love. I'm your host, Kim Hayden. All righty, welcome to the show. I am super excited today because our guest is living a really cool life, and I'm excited to see the secrets of her success and what she's working on. Dr. Taj Shotwell is an educator, business owner, Amazon bestselling author, poet, songwriter, screenwriter, and a playwright. She was born Teresa Ann James. Oh, Taj. That is so cool. Teresa Ann James. What a beautiful name. She was born Teresa Ann James, the sixth and middle child of 11 children raised in Memphis, Tennessee, by a career Army sergeant and gospel singing homemaker. She obtained formal education in San Francisco, where she taught business at colleges and universities while working as an accountant and a single mom. She joined the faculty of FAMU in the Business School and Education, teaching accounting, professional development, and educational leadership courses, and chaired a department before retirement. She has written and published 5 nonfiction books, including a 3-part series, Coming of Age in Memphis, based on her life called Middle Child. She also wrote a fiction drama faith-based book, Maggie, Never Bitter, which is adapted as a musical and has won contest awards in 2016 and 2017. The related album of 16 songs she wrote is sold on iTunes. She is the founder and president of the upcoming day and boarding school Business of Arts Academy International for 7th to 12th graders. The school's keystone is her book, Professional Development for Pre-Professionals for All Majors and Careers. Her book, Faith, Family and Faith Poetry, is an inspirational memoir of 50 short stories in a poetry about 7 generations of family and friends in Memphis and her international travels. On her birthday in 2019, Taj humbly received a Memphis Living Legends Award. Taj currently lives in Tallahassee, lives a healthy lifestyle, and has 1 daughter and 2 grandchildren. I'm super excited because there's so many things that just click in my mind. I don't know about you guys, but this is going to be a great conversation. Welcome to the show, Dr. Taj. How are you?
Oh, thank you, Kim. I'm feeling great. Thanks for inviting me.
I'm excited because um you have so much going on. I'm always fascinated by people who can write songs and put plays together and things like that, because that's just something I have never been able to really move into because writing is hard. I think writing is hard. I don't know if anybody else thinks writing is hard. But I want you to share with us, as the middle child, as an incredibly accomplished talent. Um, Share with us a little bit more of who you are. We gave the preview, but who are you?
Oh, thank you. As you mentioned, I am that middle child of 11 in Memphis, and I was raised with love. Of course, there was dysfunctions, but we always had our mother and father to bring us back together. But right after high school, I I had graduated on my way to college, and my sister introduced me to a man in Memphis. And I said, I'm ready to go to college. I don't want any relationships or anything. Well, I did. She pushed it, and I end up pregnant. And I went to college anyway with this illusion that everything was okay. So after a semester, I end up marrying a man I really didn't know. He abused me. He was a police officer there in Memphis, Now, right there in Memphis, there's history there about that. But he physically abused me, and I decided to go on and marry him because uh, I was pregnant. And I tell you, the man told me one thing that really I knew. I was under 21. I wasn't quite 21, but he told me that I would never be anything but his wife and have his children because I wanted to be educated. And when he told me I would never be educated, that just motivated me to get out. So, shortly after my 21st birthday, I grabbed my young daughter and ran to my grandmother's house in St. Louis. And from there, he found me. So I ended up in California. And I went to California, and that is where I met my mother's sister and her family. And I decide not only to get educated, but also to succeed in everything I wanted. So no other man could tell me what I want uh, or what I should do. So I decided to not only get my bachelor's, of course, I went on to get my doctorate. And then my daughter has two masters. She followed me. I didn't pressure her. She had choices. So she got her two masters. But I moved from there, and I was invited to come out to FAMU in Tallahassee. So I came out here in Tallahassee. I like it because it's a small town where it was when I got here. And I love this place, and I just love people, period. Because during my first 10 years, I was very active moving around with my father as in the military. So we didn't know anything about color. We didn't know anything about who was who. And they did not discuss it with us. Maybe they should have, because it was, I'm going to take you back to when I was 12 years old. I didn't know what color I was. And that's just show you how naive I may have been. I don't know, but all I know, my mother being a gospel singer, she taught us love, and that's what I did, love people. So I got on the bus back in when I was 12 years old. My mother wanted my brother to go to take care of some utility bills, and I asked if I could come. He said, "Sure, come on." So I got on the bus as I usually do, and there was plenty empty seats, and I grabbed the first seat. And of course, the bus driver yelled, "Hey, boy, get on up here and move that girl. Get on back to the back of the bus." And I'm shocked. And he says, and I asked my brother, "Why are you doing this?" He said, "Hush, hush. We're colored." I said, "Colored? What color? What color?" Because my skin was no different, much different than anybody else sitting on there. So I didn't know what color. He said, "We're colored." So I rushed onto the back. He said, "Quiet." And then I saw the signs as we were exiting the bus that said, "Colored line only, colored whites only." And I said, "I'm not getting in that line. That fountain is dirty. So he said, "Be quiet. You don't have to drink if you don't want to." So we went on and paid the bill. But to tell you that is, it has broadened my heart still, and I have a more open mind about creating things that make people happy. So that is why I began to write songs, and at an early age, poetry, uh, all different types of stories, short stories. I just began because I like to be in a world where there is love and where there's freedom to share my love. So that is much.
It's fascinating because there's actually some direct correlations between your life and my life. When I
Oh,
was 18, I decided to marry somebody that I did not know, and he was abusive. And I actually escaped with a baby when I was 20. I literally
oh,
had to go into a facility, a shelter, because he had I was 20, I was 19, almost 20, and he had hit me so hard that had I shifted the baby, he probably would have killed the baby.
oh, yes.
Yeah, yeah. And
Oh, yeah.
then you know what's fascinating? And I want to bring this. So a lot of these and I'm hoping that I hope God, I pray the world can moves in a better way, continues to move forward.
Yes.
Because it's fascinating that with your military background, I remember growing up in a private Catholic school in Wichita, Kansas. And we were the poor kids. We were the charity kids, right? I came from an abusive background, so my father not a good person, and so I was off. I was crazy in many ways. I mean, my brother-in-law referred to me as Crazy Kim the other day. That's why I don't live in Kansas because I don't know if they're ready for me to ever come back. Um, and and I was ADHD. I had significant trauma going on at home. Private Catholic school, wearing everybody's hand-me-down penny farths. And one of my friends was Melissa Brown, and Melissa Brown was herself and her four other siblings were the only black children in the school.
Hmm.
And but her mom and dad were both officers in the Air Force.
Wow.
Yeah. So my exposure to and the only Asian person in our school was Lynn Bowie, and Lynn's family was refugees from Vietnam that our church had sponsored, and Mr. Bowie had the janitorial and they had the house adjacent to the school, and Lynn ended up through writing, winning scholarships to universities of their
Oh,
escape from Vietnam. So my only exposure until I was 12 was that there was literally no difference.
hmm.
Literally no difference. And then when I came out of the private school, when my mother fled when we fled our home and I went into a public school, that was a shock
Yeah.
because that was society telling me that I couldn't walk down the main floor hall because that was society telling me that I couldn't have these people be my friends. It was is so I understand, not to your scope because I wasn't the person being suppressed, but I was the person coming out going, "I don't understand." I just spent 12 years of my life saying that this isn't, there is no difference. This person's actually Melissa's way smarter than I ever was. And so and it was based on academics and performance and what you bring to the table. There was no talk of color disrepresentation. But the truth of it is that school was almost all white.
Yes.
So it's interesting. I'm listening to your story, and I was literally on the other side with a young black woman that traveled with a military family who her parents were her family was phenomenal.
Hmm.
And that was my, so I to hear your side of that story puts me thinking of Melissa and the Brown family and the challenges they went through, even though it was probably 10, 12 years later than where in your life cycle. The reality is we still had the riot doors from the Desegregation Act on our high schools, on the gymnasiums.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. At
Oh,
Heights High
yeah.
School, they still had the right doors, and most people don't know this, especially young people today don't know that they read it in the books, but they haven't experienced it, right?
Right.
So I just thought they had the doors there to keep, to keep all the jocks on one side of the building. But the reality is they actually had right doors. They actually had spaces because Kansas was one of the defining states in the Desegregation Act in the United States. And so the schools were greatly impacted. But I want to move forward because I believe that these challenges is what brings the the substance to story. And I believe this is what brings us to what you're doing today through obviously screenwriting. And I want to hear about your play in a moment. But I love the fact that you have done the business, and this is what we need to listen to, business of Arts Academy International. And I love that because you didn't just leave it as arts. It is a business and it takes work. Can you walk us a bit through what you do for these 7 to 12th graders? Because I have seen some incredibly talented kids at my kids' high schools plays. So walk me
Yes.
through the Business of Arts Academy International and what you do with that.
Thank you. Well, there now it's not. I am raising monies to now to get it started. I'm
Okay.
trying to rate. It's been I've been working on it for years, and that's why I've been working on my play musicals and things to raise capital to get the operation started. However, it is incorporated now and it's official, so I can move on with it. But the goal is, keep in mind, for over several decades, I had heard about professionals and celebrities who have always made mistakes. Always made mistakes. It could be their damage their image or anything. And they end up losing it all. So I wanted to stop that chain and start with them very early. Very early, as 13 years old, I chose. That's seventh grade. And I wanted to, if we start early, then it would benefit them in the long run and they would know how. See, the schools and the colleges have really done a wonderful job in preparing a student, by giving them academic advising on how to get into college or how to get a job. But it's nothing out there that talks about what happens after you get the job. There's certain attitudes and behaviors and things that they need to know about. So this school is focused on their attitudes, no matter what major, what career. It is focused on how they are going to survive after they get the job. Okay, how do you plan on surviving? Because there's so much out there. There's the social media, and even you could destroy your image through social image. And today there's so many cameras everywhere you're walking, somebody's watching. So you're gonna have to behave a while. Know how to dress when you're out in public. When you're in your own space, do your thing. But when you're out in the public, you are subject to be scrutinized in a different way. So, and there are many things out there that people will take advantage of and make assumptions about you that could harm you. So, this school is to prepare them for their not only their careers, but what happens after you get the careers. And so that's what it's mostly about.
Sounds like it's actually approaching like soft skills and etiquette,
Yeah, thank
right?
you. Oh, yes, there is a subject in one of my book on etiquette. It's so important. Yes,
It's interesting because I've heard this from my own children. I have a 33-year-old son, and he has said to me, he goes, "Well, I don't have to give respect unless they show respect." Well, how it's a chicken and egg, folks. It's a chicken and egg. Somebody has to start the cycle.
yes,
And I find that I hear this. This is my truth. This is how I see it. It's like, okay, well, if you want to be that way, go to an island. The reality is we live in a societal culture,
yes,
and cultural norms say that chewing with your mouth open while having, no shirt on in a middle of a restaurant is not societally acceptable. It may be your truth, but it's not going to be what helps get you to that next level if you're sitting across from somebody that you could actually potentially do business with or somebody that you're employed by. So I find this fascinating because this is and God, I'm sounding like my mom more and more. I know you're getting old when you say, and we can, and by the way, every 20-year-old can say this nowadays. You go into a grocery store and you say, I remember when I could buy this cheese for X dollars. I remember when Kraft mac and cheese was like 25 cents a box. I remember when. But but I remember growing up in that Catholic school wearing a pinafore and knowing that there was etiquette involved. I may not have liked that school. I may have felt very out of place every day of my life in that school. I may have felt ashamed of my space within that school, but at the end of the day, I knew how to behave. I did not follow it all the time, but I knew how to behave. so, so I love the fact that because you're right. These kids are seeing this a lot of garbage on social media is being fed to
So
them,
much.
and it's stupid stuff, and they think that if they do all the I and I've watched this personally in young people, and you know, they're like, they hate the police, so the police are bad. And this is before everything has gone down over the last 6, 7 years. They were raised that the police are the enemy. They were raised that society is the enemy. They were raised that etiquette makes you weak, right? They were raised in this almost gangster mentality or Kardashian wannabe mentality, and none of those, neither side of those are good. What are some of the things that you talk to that you're implementing that will be in this curriculum of the school? And is a school like an online where kids can take they could be in their school, but then they can join online after school for a couple hours, or that parents can help get them enrolled? Is there anything like how are you looking at this being able to reach the greater audience?
Well, of course, the performing arts does attract people, uh, especially the music. People love. I don't know anybody who do not like music. So, but there's always the general studies that they will have to do. We're talking about including the STEM, that's the science and techs and engineering and things, mechanical things that we're talking about including in there. So even if they don't come out to be performing artists, they will still meet the college requirements to get into college, any major. But the most important thing is the professional development that I have written about, and that is addressing these same things, etiquettes, the way they treat people and how they have to respect the public. And I always tell people not to worry about getting a job. Your ideal job will get there as long as you have good behavior and a good image. You will get the job, but you can't go into the job thinking you know it all and want to change things. So I prepare them. Do not go in humble and be willing to share your ideas, but don't go in demanding to change the culture of that organization. They should not try to change it, but you can share ideas slowly to make it change. And when you're young, you just think you know it all, and you're ready and you're full of energy. And I just want to tap on that to just move slowly. So
Do you feel that being in Memphis, growing up in Memphis, with it being the kind of blues capital, the origin story that Elvis, the like, we actually just drove through there and went down on Beale Street, and I was reading all the plaques down there. The history of the music is so rich in Memphis. Do you feel that that actually influenced who you are today?
Oh, definitely. There was a theater only a couple of, or maybe 4 or 5 blocks from the house, and we would walk down, and there we met, oh, Isaac Hayes and all the blues people came in through there, so we could see them. We could touch them. Because it's a very small theater. That theater now has been knocked down. I was hoping that it would stay there, but there was always music in my family, especially with my mother. Now, I unfortunately can't sing because my father can't either, but my mother was always singing and we were dancing. She just always had us very active, doing things. And then, of course, there was another brother who would always recite poems or something. He loved MLK, so he would quote those things. And I think it was. I just feel blessed that we, despite the difficulties in society that my father had, from military honor to the city, it did not pour into the family as much. We could see the pain he was in because there were times he would read the newspaper and he just couldn't go any further. And I would grab the newspaper and I would see why he couldn't, because there was something awful had happened to another person. And so I believe it I did. I think Memphis did, and it will be very close to my heart, regardless of where I'm living now. I plan to go there again. We're having a family reunion in August, the first week of August there, and we're looking forward to it. Although my mother and father has passed on, and a couple of my brothers have passed on, so it's 9 of us left. So I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, Memphis will always have a closeness in my heart to remember all the people. I met Stevie Wonder, several people when I was growing up, just
Chuck, oh, last
Chuck
name.
Berry.
Yes.
Yes,
That, like, there's actually an entire, just so y'all know, there's an entire uh speakeasy on Beale Street
yes,
with him in there. And that was awesome. That was awesome. I was just blown away. I get excited when I see the number of young Black women in university getting a degree now outweighs, because that is the forefront of change, right?
yes,
Because women are the nurturers. Men build the skyscraper, we build the fire escape. They build the big giant steamliner, we build a lifeboat. These are real things, folks. These are real things. And I think through you know uh young Black women, and I know that, it's like, do you say African American, do you say person of color? And the reality is that I'm really talking about, you know women from uh our Black neighborhoods that are
yes, yes,
stepping into these universities and then moving up through. And the one thing I do want to say about uh this business of arts and the etiquette and everything that is going to be so critical is, there's this gap that we're starting to see now, that 30% of society is not going back to the workforce, and these people are going into these job sites, and they're going into these roles, and they're lacking the mentorship. And what it sounds like is that you're getting ahead of that curve by
yes.
creating that mentorship. Okay, before we move into your story of resilience, I want you to tell us about your play that they're doing in Texas. Tell us all
Well,
about that. I'm super excited.
many years I wrote the book Maggie Never Bitter many years ago, and I've had the readings and everything done at FAMU. And so it is a story about a young teacher who is loved by everyone. She is filled with love. And she learns that her father is dying from prostate cancer and moves back home. But only finds when she gets back not only her loving father there, but a evil stepmother. And so it goes on from there about all the terrible things that are happening with the evil stepmother who even tries to kill her, you know. So uh but it's a story of love, forgiveness. And like I said, I wrote 16 songs for it. And it's very powerful, I think. And you know, I really believe that God had placed angels before me, because when I'm at my lowest, is always something to lift me. And the beautiful lady who was working and in Dallas contacted me. She was the director. She had heard about my story. She said, I want to be the executive director and produce. This should have been done years ago, years ago. And keep in mind, Kim, she is a white female. And my leading star has to be black. So I said, do you have an issue with that? She said, of course not. I have your vision. I love your vision. You have a lot of multiple and diverse characters in here from all points of the earth. You have included, because there are 13 characters. So I was able to reach out on, you know, every every culture almost. Anyway, she said, so now they're in the midst of it, and I'm just so excited about it. And like I say, and I said, the only other thing is I don't want any cursing. This has to be a family. I want children to be able to come, and they want to bring their families, and all ages can come. I said, they're, with the stepmother trying to kill the person is enough. I said, but we're going to reverse that to show forgiveness and love in the end. So uh, they share my vision, and this is such a wonderful, creative team that I'm so blessed with, and I am so thankful for it.
What city is that gonna be in?
Dallas Fort Worth area.
Oh, make sure that they reach out to St. Marshall. She's one of my I am a huge, huge fan of this woman. She is not only the first female CEO of a professional basketball team, the Dallas Mavericks. She's also a 60-year-old black woman. She is the
Oh
very first,
wow!
yeah, she is. I am a huge, huge fan of her. I remember when she got the position, I think 18 months ago, 24 months ago.
Mhm.
I was like, just like, because I have you get the news feeds, right? So I have a specific
Right.
news feed because I want to see women empowerment. I want to see women who are changing the face of what we have. And yeah, to see Scent come across as Cynthia, but she goes by Scent Marshall. And I think she would be such a perfect guest for your opening night. I think that would
Sid
be
Marshall.
Scent Marshall,
Okay.
Cynt Marshall. Let's get her out to your play. And I would love to hear back on the success. I would love to hear that. Like,
Oh,
I just think
um,
she would be perfect, perfect VIP guest for you.
oh,
So
thank you. Thank
let's
you.
go real quickly into your story of resilience. I know that you shared that kind of awareness moment with you and your brother on the bus, and and getting that kind of that less than human awareness, right? That less than human treatment. Can you share another time with us that without resilience, we wouldn't be having this conversation? I know that your life is nothing but resilience, but is there anything that you can think of? Maybe when we talk about your business, is there anything you could share with the women watching the show as to resilience and your perseverance?
Well, let me tell you, becoming a professor was not easy. Now there are was it was very surprised. See, not only was I discriminate outside of my race, but also inside. And I was very pain. It was a very painful situation where I I go in openly and to love people. And so I couldn't understand why people did not readily accept me. I was respectful. I showed them love. I worked hard. If I needed, if to get to the next level, from assistant professor to associate professor, I had to do six publications, research. So I did eight to make sure. But keep in mind, there was undermining. No one wanted to support me. So I wrote alone. I wrote everything alone, maybe one thing I joined in, but later on. But I did not have the support I needed. I didn't understand that. So one of the ladies came up to me and asked, why? I asked her, I said, why is there so much hate here? Why aren't anybody supporting me or encouraging me? They said, well, it's your skin color. You're too fair. I said, what? Are you kidding me? I come from a family of multiple colors between my mother and father, from very fair to very dark. And we never discriminated among one another. So why am I? So she said that's just been the culture that goes back way back in slavery time. So I said, oh no, please don't. Please don't tell me that. So when it was time for promotions, I had to go directly to the university um, to get approval because the staff people would not vote me in. So I made it as full. This happened uh, throughout my career. So I went to so throughout I became a full professor, and I received honors as the best uh, teacher of the year, scholar, faculty, many other awards I got. So I went on. It didn't stop me, but I just felt it was unfair that that could happen to me. But it made me stronger. So I reassessed my life to see if do I want to continue here like this or move on to something that would make me and others much more happier. Now, the students were great. They're very supportive. I even see them today in the grocery store. Hey, I was in your class of da 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 da. I don't remember them, but they are always so loving, and I just enjoyed them. And so that just made me very happy to know that it wasn't a total waste, being or doing what I'm doing.
No, you know what? Nothing. If you're living life respectfully and
Mhm.
fully, and at times, most times, uncomfortably, the reality is it never is a waste because
Oh,
it's that one stone in the pond. We look at one small pebble and we go, "Pff, what does this do?" But it literally creates ripples, and those ripples ripple out and actually create the defining lines on the shore and the next step and the next step. So um, I'm very grateful for all you've done. I think that your school that you're doing I think that your school that you're doing is going to be I think it's pretty critical. I know that colleges now have soft skill courses in university. So just to teach young people the things that, you used to learn in daily culture of how to navigate workspaces. And this is not a gender thing or a color thing or anything. It's the navigation of human beings and how to it's that when what is that influence what is that how to win how to influence people or something. Like, there's a book. I'm sorry, folks, I just lost
Okay.
it. I know I've read it. Um, but it's a marketing book. It's a marketing book. So,
Oh,
let's real quickly, speaking of books, let's go into books. You've got tons of them. So just walk us through, um, pick the one you think that everybody on this show should read. Which book out of all of your books that you've done should everybody read on this from the show?
well, I would love to share my history. Now, I did change the names and share my experience again with them. So, Middle Child is a good one. Now, it's three series.
Okay.
That's a good one to start from. That tells you more how I overcame a lot of issues. And because, only reason I said that, Kim, is because I hear people say, when I read your book, I thought I was the only one, but you have really gone through a lot. So, and even after I share my story, I feel that there are people who have gone through worse, but if it's out there to help
Yeah.
you, then I am willing to share that with middle child. And also, because I have traveled every continent and many countries, and I just got back from Bermuda and other places. And so I wanted to share with you also the book Family and Faith, how family does matter. It's a book of poetry. It's 50 poems that I wrote based on my true life. It's not fictional. It's based on everything I've been going through. And so poetry, even family and faith book is another one that I would love to share with you too. So those are the two most of the reality ones that I would like to share.
Amazing. And they can get those on Amazon?
Yes, Amazon.
Amazon. Okay, and
Yeah.
we'll have that information in the show notes. Share with us, Dr. Taj, where can we find you, follow you, and support you?
Well, you can, if you want questions answered, you can go to my email at Taj, Taj dot Shotwell at gmail.com. Or if you want to share or see more information about my stories and what I do, go to my website, Taj Shotwell at .com. I'm sorry, tajshotwell.com.
Awesome. TajShotwell.com. Um, Close us out today with a quote, something that means, something that inspires you and helps you.
What inspires me and helps me is let go and let God, which means that there are some things you need to let go and you should place it in the hands of the Lord to take care of. And so I think that has helped me a lot. I have to let go and let God.
You know, you hear that a lot. Sometimes
Yeah.
just you have to let go, folks, to move forward. I want to thank you for joining us here today, Dr. Taj. It's a conversation that needs to be had. It needs to be had. And we need to, ladies, we all need to support each other. Just it's just that's it's a human thing. It's a humane thing to support each other. And I just want to say on a couple notes. So grab that book, Middle Child, because I think we all can relate to this because I know, even as the eldest child, having grown up in a very, very dysfunctional space all my life, even today, I feel that I'm the outlier. I feel that I'm don't quite fit in. I feel like Should I watch what I say when I go here? Should I pull back? Are they ready for me? Like, I wish I was cool like this person. I have these same doubts and you know, and I undermine my own my own value. You undermine your own value when you don't see the value in what you bring every day to those around you. And you know what? It's never about who had it worse, whose pain was greater. None of that matters because your pain is the only pain that you've experienced. And you need to honor that. And you need to look at that. And you need to find a way to let go and let God move you through it. Remember, do grab that Family and Faith book. I really would encourage you to do that because I know that for myself, my family is my core. Whether or not I speak to them on a regular basis, they are my core. But at the end of the day, folks, I just want you to live your best life because when you live your best life, those around you benefit because you become the ripple. You become the stone. You can do this. We can all do this. Till next time, take care of yourself and watch my new clothes. Thank you for joining us here today at Kim Talks Resilience. I'm your host, Kim Hayden, and I'd love to invite you to our resilient community at resilientgift.com. That's resilientgift.com, and we'll send you our magazine and tickets for upcoming events and all sorts of cool things we do here. So be sure to keep watching, and you know what? Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and share, because we all know that sharing is caring.